Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining our presentation today. Vince and I are super excited to show you a little bit more about GEM. Um, but before we begin, we'll just go through some quick housekeeping items. So uh, let me go ahead and just project my screen. All right, awesome. So yeah, for those of you who are just dialing in, just as a reminder, today Vince and I are going to walk you through all of the major AI capabilities in GEM. And if there's any interest, feel free to reach out to us later. But yeah, the hope is to just give you a sneak peek into what's under the hood. And then if you have any questions, we'll also be able to answer some questions live after this call. Cool. So a couple of quick housekeeping items. Today's session will be recorded and available on demand after the session. So if you have to hop early or you want to share this with anyone else, you'll have that recording available. And as I mentioned, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and submit them in the Q&A portal. So you'll see on the right side next to your chat, a Q&A section. You can go ahead and put in a question. And if someone beats you to the same question, you can actually upvote that question, and that will let Vince and I know which ones are top priority. So again, after Vince's demo, we'll go ahead and leave some time to answer some of those questions. And if we don't get if we are not able to answer your question today, we'll be sure to follow up after as well. And then, lastly, a lot of you are all tuning in live. Vince and I are going to cover a lot today, and it's always fun to just hear from the folks that are here. So, in the session chat, if you just want to say hi or where you're dialing from, feel free to just throw in your thoughts, and feel free to share any feedback you have, whether it's about today's presentation or what you'd like to see in the future from GEM. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and do a quick round of introductions. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ani, and I'm the head of product marketing at GEM.
And my name is Vince. I'm actually the senior solutions consultant here at GEM. I do most of our product demonstrations and answer a lot of our technical questions. So any questions you have, feel free to type them in the chat like Ani mentioned. It's nice to meet everyone.
Yeah. And thank you to our first participant to put in the chat. Hello, Rodrigo. Appreciate you joining and sharing your thoughts. So before we go into the next section, Vince and I are going to do a quick little icebreaker, and we'd love to hear from all of you. So first thing is, if you didn't have your current career, what job would you like to have? For me, if I wasn't in product marketing in a tech company, I would for sure be a spin instructor. It's super fun, get a free workout, you get to yell at people. Like, honestly, sounds like my dream. Vince, what about you?
Yeah, for me, and it's actually funny. My wife referenced this in her wedding vows because she knows how important it is to me. I would be a short order cook. It's been my dream to work in a diner and just serve people meals. And the closest I get to that today is just cooking for my kids on the Blackstone out back. But yeah, short order cook for sure.
Nice, nice. All right, awesome. And yeah, if for those of you who feel comfortable, share what you all would do. I see golf instructor, professional baseball player, impressive stuff. Awesome. Cool. Well, I love it. Love the engagement. So yeah, right before I head off to Vince to give the presentation, I just wanted to do a quick intro into GEM for those of you that may not know about us. So, just explaining a little bit more about the challenges that people face before they come to see GEM, and hopefully what you see on this slide resonates with a lot of you. But the key reasons why people are coming to GEM is because they're facing one of these four challenges, whether it's they need to be thinking more about proactive recruiting because inbound applications are not enough for their pipelines. The whole do more with less being a real reality for so many teams with more applications and more job recs per recruiter. There's also a lot of customers who come to us looking to consolidate their tech stack because they don't want multiple tools and their recruiters are tired of juggling. And then lastly, as we talked about today's going to be very, very focused on AI and specifically how GEM uses AI for the recruiting workflows. And I know many, many talent leaders here are, being asked to look into AI, and some are really excited about it. So that's some of the few reasons why people come and talk to us at GEM. And just kind of digging a little bit deeper into some of the points I mentioned, a big frustration that a lot of our customers are trying to solve with GEM is just kind of like this mess that you see here in the slide. It's intentionally like the messiest slide I'll ever create because that's what a lot of our customers say they feel like is going in their day-to-day. Like they have this tool and that tool and the other platform and that platform. And so what happens is they all sound great and nice, but when you add so many tools one by one, it ends up actually kind of creating more of a mess and less productivity than you'd hope because you're switching between systems. The data silos exist everywhere. It's hard to get a complete picture. There's discrepancies. And so all of this is just kind of further fueling that sentiment that perhaps we need to simplify things and really just consolidate and bring things as in-house to one system as we can. And again, that's one of the biggest reasons people come to Gem. And so that's really a nice segue for us. Again, for those of you that don't know, like Gem is the only AI first all-in-one recruiting platform. And as you can see on this diagram, what we do is we bring together all of the core products that a recruiting team uses every day. So your ATS, CRM, sourcing, scheduling, analytics, talent marketing. And what's great here is that while we have all of these tools, we don't force you into an all or nothing commitment. You can pick and choose the products you need right away to make sure that we can work with your existing tech stack. And so if I just dig into a little bit deeper, and Vince is going to show you how all of these like AI powered features work specifically, but for sourcing on the top right, we give you access to over 650 million profiles. And our platform using AI can search and identify the candidates with the skills and qualifications you're looking for. And if you want to go beyond just our platform of 650 million profiles, you can also go on LinkedIn and 20 other sourcing platforms and add candidates directly into your CRM with just a one click. And then on that sourcing side, our AI will also personalize the outreach to every candidate that you are going to message. And our data shows that those who are using Gem AI to add that extra personalization tend to see response rates boost by about 30 to 40%. Now, on the CRM in the top middle, that's where you can build and nurture the talent pools. So the really cool thing about Gem is that we automatically refresh candidate profiles from LinkedIn. So the data that you see in Gem is always fresh. And again, we'll use AI Rediscovery to help you surface past candidates in your CRM or ATS that might be a good fit for your current roles. And then for the candidates that apply, that's where our ATS comes in to accelerate that hiring process. So you can use AI to review the applications and identify the top ones. We have features that make it easy to collaborate with hiring managers and show them the pipeline. And we also have workflows built in to just simplify the offer process and get that out the door. And then within our ATS, our scheduling solution also eliminates all the back and forth. It's a really nifty tool that Vince is going to show you, but essentially just automatically finds the right times for everyone based on their time zones, their conflicts, their preferences, and a lot more. And then to the very right below sourcing, you'll see our talent marketing solution. This is there to help you further build those pipelines by building a really cool career site, managing your events or campus recruiting efforts, organizing your talent communities, and building up nurture campaigns to keep in touch for those high-priced talent. And then all of this feeds into our analytics, so you get visibility across the entire funnel. Cool. And so again, as I mentioned earlier, you can get started with just the products you need, but more and more of our customers are just consolidating to Gem as much as possible because when they do so, they get to use the products that work better together. And what I mean by that is the more Gem products you use, the simpler it becomes for your recruiters. They get one consistent user experience across the entire process, and there's no feeling of switching between tools because the whole platform is in one place. You get a single source of truth for every candidate relationship, so you don't have to hop into your email or your ATS or LinkedIn to find out what's happening with a candidate. And then with all your data in one place, it's really easy to pull all the metrics you need without worrying about discrepancies because the integrity of the data is all in one system. And then our AI, which again, I'm alluding to, but Vince is going to show, our AI is a lot smarter too, because it has all of the candidate context from your CRM or ATS. So when we surface profiles for you using AI, our AI is already able to flag and account for who have you already spoken to, who's already applied before, and it's going to make sure you're not going to see a candidate that you just recently rejected a week ago or another recruiter is reaching out to. And then, of course, there's practical benefits too. A lot of IT folks and ops people, if you're on here, I'm sure managing access permissions between different systems is a real headache. That doesn't exist with Gem because you just have to configure it once in the system and then you get it across 10 different products. And then, of course, cost savings. So one of the cool things with Gem is the more products you buy, the more we can bundle the pricing so that you end up saving 30 to 50% on each bundle item. Cool. And then last two slides, and then we'll hand it off to Vince. But I know the term all-in-one recruiting is a common phrase these days, and we just wanted to call out a few reasons what makes us truly different. The first and foremost is just the nature of how we're building it in an AI first approach. So as you'll see from Vince here, it's not just a couple of fancy features that we use AI, we're really embedding it across core workflows, whether that's reviewing applications, sourcing talent, summarizing scorecards, scheduling interviews. The other cool differentiator for us is, and if you're a Gem customer, you probably know this, but a lot of recruiters really love how easy it is to use Gem. Everything just makes sense. It's intuitive. And if you haven't checked out our reviews on G2, you can see for yourself. We have a 4.8 out of 5 rating on G2, which is the highest in the TA tech industry. And then the true end-to-end capability is really where we shine. A lot of ATSs, have just that, an ATS with some scheduling, maybe some data. But we've already built out best-in-class sourcing, CRM, scheduling, and analytics, and we're adding the ATS on top of that to give you that complete end-to-end process without sacrificing the ATS adjacent products. And then the last part, as I mentioned earlier before, we're flexible. Our platform is incredibly modular, so you can pick and choose the products you need, and they all kind of work like Lego pieces building on top of each other. So obviously, the more Gem products you buy, the better. But we're also here to meet you where you are, since we know that switching different systems takes whiles, there's contracts and all that stuff. Cool. So last slide from me before I hand it off to Vince, but you don't have to take my word for it. As I mentioned, we have public reviews on G2 and a few other review sites that really speak to the value our customers see. But just in general, our recruiters that are using Gem end up getting way more done because they're not constantly switching between systems. Our analytics help teams find out where the bottlenecks are in the process. And by bundling more and more tools into Gem, our customers end up saving about 30 to 50% on those individual line items because they're just putting it all in one place. So thank you again for hearing my quick little spiel, and hope you all learned a little bit about Gem. But enough from the product marketer. Let's just hand it off and show you what's really under the hood. So Vince, I will hand it off to you.
Perfect. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Let's go ahead and dive right in. That's coming through for everybody. We should be off to the races. Perfect. Looks like it is. So thank you all so much for attending. Like I said, my name is Vince. I'm the solution consultant here at Gem. I actually started my career as a recruiter though. And oddly enough, I'm married to a director of TA. So bit of a recruiting family. Happy to field any questions you have along the way. And of course, if we'd like to meet, one-to-one, I'm happy to do that as well. But for the remainder of the time that we have together, I'm going to be walking you through some of the core workflows that we provide here at Gem. We're going to be focusing in on the main areas that Ani walked through just a moment ago. Our ATS, our CRM, of course, our scheduling, our analytics. And we're definitely going to put a lot of the emphasis on the AI features and components that we've built into the platform. So with that being said, this is what you'll see as soon as you log into Gem. Immediately, when I log in, the system knows who I am, and it knows what's most important to me. I'm a recruiter. I'm working on this data scientist position. We do a really nice job of visualizing where candidates are at within the process, with each of your subsequent hiring stages available for you to take action. We actually provide drag and drop functionality within our ATS. So if we had a conversation with this candidate, we could just easily drag them to the next stage in our process, or conversely, we could remove them from the process very, very quickly. And I'll show you more about how we handle jobs and how we handle candidate applications in just a moment. However, I did want to scroll down just a little bit further on my homepage to show you some of the other elements we bring directly into your line of sight. So I'm a recruiter, but I'm also a hiring manager. As you can see, I've completed some interviews and I have scorecards that need to be filled out. So obviously it's very easy for us to create custom scorecards, or you to create custom scorecards with overall ratings and recommendations, free form text, drop down, single select buttons, and of course the ability to leave notes. So this is a great fit candidate. Let's go ahead and submit that scorecard. And we'll get into scorecards in just a moment, but I did want to highlight that we're bringing everything to the front view of a recruiter or a hiring manager as soon as you log into the system. We do also provide CRM functionality. So projects, how are we organizing the talent that we want to develop relationships with? And ultimately, how are we communicating to talent through the system? We actually communicate to candidates using AI, and it's automated, stage-based, and personalized communication. So think of a series of emails mixed in with your LinkedIn in-mails, mixed in with text messages. that go out to candidates, informing them that you're hiring, they would be a great fit, and you'd love for them to apply to your positions, or at least have that recruiter conversation. And I'll show you how we use AI to create communication in the system in just a moment. And I also wanted to call attention to some of the high-level analytics we can provide within the system. How many people are we hiring? What's our offer acceptance rate? Our average time to fill? Specific KPIs, recruiter by recruiter breakdowns, departmental breakdowns, diversity information. What are our DEI statistics? What kinds of applications are we receiving? And are we treating candidates equitably throughout the process? What about our interviewing? How many interviews are we scheduling? By department, by interviewer? Are we submitting our scorecards on time? And ultimately, we want to make sure that we're communicating with candidates effectively. And we do this by tracking communication statistics. How many emails are we sending? Are we sending these emails to a diverse audience? What about texts? What about in-mails? All of that will be tracked and logged within one single pane of information, which would be your GEM platform. And then, of course, over on the left, you're going to see all of your navigational elements. How do I get to all of my jobs that I'm working on? All of my candidates, my referrals, any of my scheduling activities? Do I have interviews coming up? And then, of course, templates. Maybe we want to create scorecard templates or job offer templates. Those can be created and utilized in the system at your discretion. You don't need to submit tickets with GEM. You can configure the system in the way that you would like it to be configured. Now, that being said, let's strap on our recruiter hat and try to get through some candidates who've actively been applying to our positions. What I can do is I can navigate directly to our ATS section and pop into my jobs. Now, again, as a recruiter, I'm going to have access to all of the positions I'm responsible for or associated to. You'll see that I can filter through to specific jobs or only focus in on the positions that are important to me. And then all of the positions I'm responsible for will be easily visualized for you. Who do we have to review who's just submitted an application, and who is in each subsequent step within our hiring workflow? As a recruiter, I can dive directly into all of my new applications, see every single person who's applied to my position, and ultimately use a ton of hot buttons up at the top in order to filter through to quality. So part of the integration that we provide is actually an analysis of your job descriptions. So based on what you've been posting, here are some keywords, terms, or phrases you should be looking for in the appropriate resume or the appropriate CV. And we can actually highlight those directly within the resume. So when we start to display candidates, of course, you'll be able to easily scan and screen that CV, identifying those keywords, identifying those terms and phrases. Of course, you can search through information using your own keywords or using Boolean strings. We didn't want to take that away from recruiters. That's tried and true. But you will also have hot buttons up at the top. Are any of my applicants referrals? What about the custom application questions we're asking people throughout the process? Do you require visa sponsorship? Yes or no? We can filter to candidates based on the way that they've responded. And of course, have we recently rejected any of these candidates? Does anybody have multiple applications at the organization? And our favorite, part of the focus of our conversation today, AI. How do we use AI to filter quality candidates to the top of our stack, especially if we're getting hundreds, potentially thousands of applications? Well, what we do using our AI model is analyze the jobs that you're posting within the ATS. We will present you with AI suggested criteria, such as 3 years of experience in quantitative analysis, 3 years with SQL, 3 years with Python. However, since we use large language models instead of traditional machine learning, you can enter your own natural language prompts here. So for example, show me someone who's not a job hopper. They've spent at least 1 year in their past 3 full-time roles. You can enter that sort of guidance for the system at your discretion. So on the subject of AI, I know I just mentioned it, but there's really 2 schools of thought. There's your traditional AI, which is machine learning, and it's essentially pattern recognition. There's also large language models, which is like your OpenAI or your ChatGPT or Grok, that takes natural language inputs and provides you with results based on your guidance. We actually conducted some A/B testing. We tried machine learning, we tried the large language models, and large language models wound up providing significantly more qualified candidates because the recruiter is always in the driver's seat. You all are professionals. You know what you're looking for. We'll make suggestions. You can make some augments and give the system guidance. This will mitigate any sort of bias that a machine learning system might introduce into a process and always keep you in the driver's seat. Now, that being said, once you update your ranking, you can also mark some of these skills as being priority. These are the most important attributes in a candidate. Show me candidates that have these requirements first. You update your ranking, and of course, we will present you with the candidate as well as that AI review. This candidate is 100% match. They have 8 of the keywords that we're looking for on their profile, and they have all of the qualifications that we need from that AI review perspective, including all 3 of our priority skills. So effectively, the system allows you to use your own keywords and search logic combined with our AI to present you with quality candidates in your stack. And from here, we can ultimately decide what we'd like to do with the candidate. Do we want to advance this individual to the next stage within our process? Or do we want to reject the candidate with or without a message? So of course, within the system, you can create all of your disposition reasons, templatize your thanks but no thanks letters, and we can send those out to the candidates that you should choose to disposition either forward in the process or back in the process. What's also really nice is we have bulk capability. So what we could do is we could say, we've hired this candidate, however, we still have over 200 people waiting for response. So I can deselect the person we've hired and then bulk reject the rest, letting them know that we've actually had somebody hired for the position and we'll keep you in mind for the future. That's actually the beauty of the system, keeping people in mind for the future. You might have hired this candidate, but these 5 were excellent. We want to do a good job of rediscovering and recommunicating with quality talent that's applied to our positions in the past. That's where the CRM comes into play. We can add these candidates to the projects that we're building within the CRM so that the next time a data scientist position opens up, we already have a curated list that we've used AI to curate for us, and we can automate the communication. You've applied in the past, you're a great fit, we have another open role, let us know if you'd like to apply or if you'd like to talk. I'll check really quick and see if anything has come through in the chat. I believe Ani has answered everything so far, so we will press on. So this is sort of the first stop on the recruiter journey. Who is knocking on our door, submitting applications? Do we have quality? Let's leverage AI to make sure that if there are some specific items that we just cannot live without in this position, we're floating those candidates to the top of our line of sight. Because you never know, if you get 100 candidates, candidate 101 might be the best fit. Let's use technology to bring us that best fit. Now, that being said, like I mentioned, you might not always have the most qualified applications. However, you might have candidates who've applied in the past that we need to circle back to. We do a really, really good job of this. So we actually provide an area in the system that we call candidate rediscovery. This is going to be a repository of every candidate who's ever entered your system, all of your applicants, anybody who's joining your talent communities, anybody that you source using Gem AI sourcing or Gem traditional sourcing. They're all going to live in this pantry. So the next time you have an opening, before you even post the job, you can go in and say, Gem AI, please help me out and let me know if we have somebody that's going to be the appropriate fit. All of the positions that you post in the ATS are going to load up into candidate rediscovery. What we'll do is we'll take those job descriptions and again, use AI to show you candidates in your repository that you should or could circle back to. So in a couple of seconds, I have a very advanced Boolean string created going through my entire system. I also have the opportunity to leverage a variety of different filters. So if I want to, I can dive directly into the ATS. And let's say I get promoted here at Gem and I need to find my replacement. I can very easily see who's ever applied to solutions positions in the past, what jobs they've been associated to, were there any scorecards submitted for them? And then, of course, things like rejection reasons. Did we reject these candidates or did they decline us? They went dark or our compensation wasn't in line. You can set reminders for yourself in the system and also see candidate activity. When's the last time that we communicated to this candidate? Did they respond to us? It's totally flexible and up to you. And if you want to get very fancy, you can go in and say, show me every candidate we've ever had at least a phone screen with who's applied to a solutions position. Right away, I've generated a list of almost 170 people, and now I can create an automation. So we need to hire for this position again, automatically pop these folks into the project that I'm working on, and then automatically start communicating to them. Send them emails, send them text messages, queue up those LinkedIn in-mails. This is what I like to call grocery store logic. If we have the right ingredients in the pantry, let's use those before we need to go external, before we need to even post the job. Let's see if we have quality. We can use AI to filter to that quality and then communicate to those individuals. And like I mentioned earlier, when we were going through AI inbound, all of that criteria or those suggested bits of criteria, we can leverage that here for your pantry or for your repository. So AI is everywhere throughout the system. Here's my job. Give me some suggested criteria. Show me candidates that we've known about or who've applied in the past. Then let's go through our inbound applications, or then let's go sourcing. It's totally up to you how you like to work and which workflow is most appropriate. So yes, very, very smart in regards to getting through previous applicants, previously sourced folks. And yes, Brianna, I saw your question come through. You can ask pre-screener questions as well for all of the positions that you're posting. So for example, if you are leveraging the Gem ATS, you can embed all of your job postings into a career site we provide, or if you already have a career site you like, we can provide embed links. When people choose the position, ultimately we'll load up those job descriptions that you've entered into the system. And then our application process is extremely easy for candidates. We don't redirect them to another web page. We don't have them create a candidate account where they need to log in and create a password. They can apply to your jobs in one single pane of information. You can also include custom questions, as well as voluntary self-identification questions, such as race and ethnicity, gender, voluntary information such as veteran status. And candidates can actually apply to positions and save, meaning that if they should ever come back to you and apply again, their information would preload. So we're doing the candidate a favor and helping them apply to the positions without having them go through 10 different steps in order to submit information that might not have changed. Of course, they can apply without saving as well. But to answer the question, yes, absolutely. You can ask your knockout questions. Any sort of preliminary screening questions can be entered within the process. That being said, we've covered two really important elements of the process. We've covered going through our inbound applications. We've also covered going through candidates we already know about. Again, let's use AI to resurface these individuals. If we have quality candidates, let's send the communication to them. We'll get to sending communication in just a moment, but one thing that I really wanted to focus on from the AI perspective is how we can facilitate scheduling for people actually applying to your positions. So as a recruiter, I can go back to any of the jobs that I'm responsible for. When you create your jobs, you can enter job details. So for example, what are my job settings for this position? Do we have rec IDs? Are they standard or confidential positions? Things like departments, locations, office types, custom fields, areas for compensation, bonus, equity, so on and so forth. Areas for your entire hiring team. And we can also facilitate job approvals as well as offer approvals. So before we can post this position, Gabriella and Nitish have to give me a thumbs up. Conversely, before we can shoot an offer out to a candidate, we've got to go through a couple of processes, maybe the hiring manager, maybe the CFO. So we've got you covered from an approvals perspective as it pertains to jobs and offers. But what I really wanted to show you as it pertains to scheduling is the interview plan. So you can have custom or bespoke interview plans for each job that you list within the system. These can be templatized, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel if you use a standard practice. However, you can have as many stages within your interview process as you would like. So for example, our first stage is going to be the initial interview. It's a recruiter phone screen for 30 minutes. Maybe with this particular requisition, we want to add an additional phone screen. Again, we can save custom templates, title the interview name, enter the duration, provide interview prep for any of your interviewers, And then of course, custom scorecards. We would like this sort of feedback for this sort of position. And again, these can be check the box, they can be multiple choice, they can be free form text. So the reason I wanted to show you the interview plan is because this is what's going to dictate all of the scheduling automation that we can provide for the position. So that being said, when I go back to my talent pipeline, I'm going to be able to see a color-coded listing of what needs to happen in the system. This is a candidate that needs scheduling. If I click into that candidate record, you're going to see which stage the candidate is actually at. And then you can actually decide to schedule them for an interview or request their availability. So we've got a couple of different scheduling options that I'd like to walk you through. So we actually have what we provide and we call gem scheduling. All of your jobs will load here, all of your candidates, of course. You can filter through to your specific requisitions. And ultimately, what you're able to do is decide how you want to schedule the candidate. There's a few different options. So I'll go through the most simplistic one, and then we'll get into advanced AI scheduling. This is a candidate that we're ready to schedule for that initial recruiter phone screen. I'm going to set them up for a self-schedule option. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to take that interview panel that we created in the ATS. We can associate one or many interviewers. We can also associate interview pools into the system as well. All of your rules, so your scheduling options, your scheduling durations, your templates for candidate communication. So what do we want to send to this candidate? How do we want to be communicating and letting them know we want to schedule you for that particular interview or that particular stage in the process? And ultimately, the candidate is going to receive templatized correspondence. We use personalization tokens. So then that way we're saying people's names appropriately. We're addressing the day of the week and the time zones appropriately. And then the candidate will be able to see a preview of what that's going to look like. So ultimately, your logo will be up at the top. And based on your interviewers' calendars, we'll do a calendar read. Friday works great for me, 10 to 10:30. I'll select that option and confirm. This will book on the candidate schedule. It will also book on the interview schedule, so the interviewer's schedule. That's the simplistic self-scheduling option that I'm sure some of you are very familiar with. However, we do have very advanced interview scheduling built into the system. So for example, this is a candidate, Lisa, that we need to schedule. Let's request their availability. What we can do is we can send the candidate an email saying, we'd love to interview with you. However, we need to know when you're free. So the candidate will be able to drag and drop throughout a calendar all of the times that they're available to meet with your hiring team. What we're going to do is we're going to take this availability and use AI to cross-reference all of the calendars of your hiring team, finding appropriate slots. The candidate can also leave their pronouns as well as a name pronunciation recording because we want to be calling people what they want to be called. We want to be saying names appropriately. Once the candidate submits their availability, this is what we can do. We can go into scheduling and say, okay, we have a candidate who's ready to go. Let's click schedule. This is where all the AI and all of the magic happens. So what we're doing behind the scenes is we're looking at that candidate availability and cross-referencing it, doing a lot of permutations with all of the people associated to the hiring plan. We will go through as many options as we can provide. We typically default to a one-day offer. However, you can bust things up into 2 or 3-day interviews. That's totally up to you. And of course, when we do the calendar configuration, we're going to show you where the logic came from. So as you can see here, this is the candidate. This is what we're going to put them through in the interview. And here is everyone associated to the process, as well as their associated calendar. Now, what's really nice is you're going to be able to see if the interviewers have any holds on their calendar or any other meetings. So if you do need to make some adjustments, you can do that on the fly. And if there's any sort of conflict, the system will notify you so that you can swap interviewers in or out. So we can always choose somebody who's going to be available. And then, of course, if you should like to, you can find times that work best based on everybody's schedule. Now, that being said, once we find an appropriate schedule, we can then proceed to launch communication. So, of course, you can include all of your video conferencing links, whether you use Google Meet, Teams, Zoom. Candidate communication will auto-populate. And then, of course, we will show you your work. Here's the type of interview. Here's everybody associated to the interview. And as you can see, these are what the calendar invitations are going to look like. So Jeff, the interviewer, you're going to meet with this candidate, Ramon. There's their pronouns and contact information. And here is the remainder of the process, or the remainder of the interview that the candidate will be put through. And ultimately, if everything looks good, you can create the schedule. We'll send the communication out to your hiring managers and book the meetings for them. We'll also book the meeting on the candidate's calendar as well. So we're using AI to do all of that calendar Tetris, or that cross-referencing that recruiting coordinators typically have to do, that bogs down the process, that takes tons and tons of time. We don't want you to have to do that. We want technology to do that for us. And ultimately, once the interviews have taken place, the interviewers will receive scorecards that they can fill out. The scorecards are always going to be logged in the ATS, of course, and you'll have the ability to go in and not only create your own scorecards, but see if any scorecards have actually been actioned. Did we complete a scorecard? Are there some scorecards that we no longer use? All of those will be available in the system. And of course, as an interviewer, I'll have access to a scheduling section to see anybody who needs to schedule and all of the interviews that I am supposed to take place. Here's all the interviews that I've taken. Here's all the scorecards that I need to fill out. And ultimately, once scorecards have been filled out, you can view them, take a look at what it is that you've entered on the candidate information. And we can also view all of the scorecards. So if we want to, we can see the feedback from different interviewers within the process. If we hover in, we can see their direct feedback. And ultimately, if we would like to, we can go to the candidate's profile. And essentially what this is going to do is provide us with another aspect of AI. So when we go into scorecards, you're going to see the scorecards that have been submitted for the position, as well as an AI summary. So based off of what everybody has said about the candidate and all of the feedback that they've submitted, we can provide you with candidate strengths, areas of concern, and then contradictions based on the feedback that was submitted. And we'll actually provide citations for this too. So this candidate has strong technical skills. Seems that 2 of us thought that that was the case during the interview process. I thought so, as well as my counterpart, Nitish. Conversely, we have some citations for areas of concern. And of course, again, you're going to be able to see that overall recommendation, or that feedback by feedback representation from your interviewers, if you will. So very, very simple to understand what that feedback looks like using an AI summary or looking at the scorecards that were submitted. Obviously, we want to do a really good job of communicating with candidates using AI as well. And we can do so using what we call sequences in the system. So if you have a list of 1,000 candidates that you want to advertise to, let them know that you have new positions you want them to apply to, you can create sequences within Gem. It's just like typing an email. So we'll integrate with your email client, whether it's Outlook or Gmail or what have you. So communication will come directly from you, not from a third party. You can enter your subject and all of your content, and you will also have all of your standard email option here too. So do we want to have attachments or images or hyperlinks? Of course you can do so. I majored in English in school. I can type emails all day. The problem is that it takes all day. So we've incorporated some AI communication generation here, which is really hard to say, but I think I nailed it. That being said, you can enter the position or the role that you're trying to recruit for. We're looking for a software engineer. And within the second box, I can add any specific information about the position that I want to. So I can go ahead and copy and paste our job description. And I'll actually do that just to show you how it looks in real time. There's my job. Let's go ahead and pop it into the sequence box and generate our communication. You can enter information about your benefits package, rates of pay. You can tell the system to type the message in a different language if you want to. And we will generate the communication to your candidates. So, hi, Ani. Hi, Vince. You have an impressive background. We'd love to interview with you, or we'd love for you to apply. We can also generate your follow-up communication. So if people aren't responding to your first email, let's send them a follow-up, maybe in 3 business days, for example. If they don't respond to that, let's send them another point of communication. Maybe we want to flip this to be a text message. Maybe we want to flip it to be a LinkedIn in-mail. We can actually pre-populate all of your LinkedIn in-mails for you, let you know when you need to send in-mails, and make it very easy for you to send them. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. But one thing that I wanted to call attention to in the way that we send emails to candidates is we also provide a feature that is called send on behalf of. Essentially, this is a way for any of your hiring managers, any of your executives to participate in the recruitment process without actually having to do anything. This is my favorite part of the sequencing, because this is actually how they got me to work at Gem. I got 3 emails from a recruiter that I didn't respond to. And then I got an email from the VP of Solutions that I responded to. And I got hired 3 weeks later. So anybody that grants you permission within the system, you can communicate to candidates as them. It's a really great way to make candidates feel like they're being reached out to by a decision maker, or that they are that high caliber talent. And the best thing is we can just route the responses back to the recruiter so that the hiring manager doesn't have to deal with scheduling or anything like that. I mentioned we can help you by pre-populating your LinkedIn in-mails. We do that by sending you reminders. Hey, you've got people you need to send an in-mail to. Here they all are. If you click send in-mail, what that's going to do is it's actually going to take you to the candidate's LinkedIn profile, and Gem will load up as a sidebar. So you'll see the candidate's information, and then your LinkedIn in-mail is already going to be pre-populated for you. So all you have to do is paste and send it and mark it as complete. It's personalized, it's ready to go for the candidate. LinkedIn in-mail is great, but you have to remember to do it. And you have to remember to type things out and personalize them. So our technology will handle the personalization for you and remind you when you need to take action. And the best part is we track everything. We track your emails, we track your in-mails and your responses, so that everything is tracked in one place. Multiple communication channels in one single interface or one single pane of information. And that being said, we do also have the ability to embed even further AI information into our sequences. So we leverage personalization tokens to make sure that we're calling people by their first name and last name, referencing their job title or the company they work at. But we also leverage AI tokens. So what this allows you to do is to type a personalized sentence to the candidate and embed it in your message. So for example, I could say, take a look at the college that the candidate has attended and compliment their basketball team, or ask them about their major. This is how we add a further level of personalization into the system. This is how we make it feel very lifelike. We let candidates know that we've taken the time to look at their records, look at their profiles. And on the subject of sourcing candidates and bringing new candidates into the system, we do an amazing job of that using AI. So within the GEM platform, we provide what we call AI sourcing. This is an interface that's going to allow you to conduct external searches to bring candidates from the open web into your GEM platform. It's very straightforward, and I'll show you exactly how it works. So all of the jobs that you post in the ATS are going to be searchable within AI sourcing. All that you have to do is select the job description will load. We'll let you know if we're missing any information or if you want to add any additional information. Do you want to add years of experience? Do you want to add your industry? And from here, we'll use AI to dissect that position and ultimately come up with a talent pool definition for you. So essentially, here are some job titles you should be looking for based off of your job description. Here's the location you said you needed the candidate. Do we want to look in a metro area, specific cities, states, provinces, or countries? What about experience? Are we looking for candidates with a specific amount of months at their current company, or do we need just overall years of experience? On the subject of companies, we actually leverage AI here as well. So you can enter any companies that you'd like to recruit talent from and save those as presets. So potentially you'd like to recruit from large public tech companies. Show me people who've worked at Meta and Apple and Google. Or you can just ask AI for it. You could say, large public tech companies in the USA. Cool. And in a couple of seconds, we'll generate a list of those organizations. What this does is obviously further refine your talent pool. We're just looking for people that have worked at Meta or Apple. And as you can see, this first candidate worked at Meta, worked at Apple, worked at Uber. And ultimately, you can add companies, you can add educational requirements as well. Show me candidates who went to Ivy League schools, or show me candidates who went to historically Black colleges or top women's colleges for working on our diversity strategy. And just like we went through in the inbound portion of the demonstration, we'll analyze that job. We'll give you that AI suggested criteria. You could mark some of it as priority, natural language. You can add additional criteria. And then we'll just start bringing candidates in for you. Based off of what you listed, here are candidates we should consider. This is a candidate, senior software engineer at Airbnb. You'll always get their name. You'll always get their LinkedIn profile. And you'll always get a personal email that we've verified as being open and active. So again, multiple ways to communicate to the candidate. And then there's your AI review. Here's the candidate. Here's the review based off of the criteria that you've entered and prioritized. Do a quick scan, take a look at the experience of the individual, see if they have any certifications or if they have any patents. That can be loaded into the system as well. And the best part is, if you like a candidate, just give them a thumbs up. That's going to automatically add them to one of the projects you're pipelining for, and it'll automatically send them communication. In this case, dear candidate, we're hiring again. Let me know if you'd like to apply. Let me know if you'd like to talk. And it's as simple as going to the next person. There's the AI review. Is this a good fit, or is this candidate not someone we would consider? And of course, all of your projects will be right here as well. Maybe not a good fit for the project I'm working on, but would be a great fit for a junior level position or something of that nature. Eric, I just saw your question come through. So when you choose no, you can let us know why. Was it the wrong company? Was it the wrong job title or something else? And submit that. That allows us to make adjustments on the back end of the system. However, we don't use machine learning because that introduces bias into the system. Remember, we use large language models. And the reason for that is, let's say we thumbs down 10 candidates who went to the University of Michigan. A machine learning system is then going to say, okay, no more candidates from that educational entity. A large language system is going to take your tailoring or your requirements. It's not going to make assumptions. So I think you're probably getting at, like, does the system learn based off of your no's? You would just update the criteria because we don't want to introduce bias into any of the candidates that enter your system. I hope that answers your question. And all of that to say, when we work in the GEM platform, when we're going through our jobs, when we're sourcing candidates and we're communicating to candidates, we want to measure the effectiveness of everything. So we want to provide very advanced analytics within the system. So what we do is we provide what we call pipeline analytics. You can filter through to custom timeframes, all-time information from a timeframe standpoint, and you can filter on a variety of different objects. So basically, what you need to do is select, if you're working on a certain job or a certain recruiter or a certain department, you can stack all of your filters and we'll show you what's happening within process. How many people applied? How many did we phone screen, assess, so on and so forth. And we'll actually model out all of the data for you as well. So job by job, how many applications did we get? And what was our associated pass-through rate? So essentially, for this sales development position, 722 applications, only 39% of those passed our screen, 74% made it to assessment, all the way to our end state. We hired 44 of those 722 applications. And that being said, we can also provide you with higher ratios. So when we need to hire 5 more people, we'll know that we need about 82 candidates to enter process. That being said, we don't just break down the information in percentages, we can also break it down in time. So for example, with this software engineer position, on average, it took us about 36 days to screen resumes and decide if it was a yes or a no. What does that tell us? Does the recruiter have too many requisitions? Is the position too stringent? Are we just understaffed? What's going on at the organization? We want you to. And of course, we can filter in a variety of different ways. Maybe I'm a leader and I want to see how each department is performing. And maybe within each of those departments, I want to take a look at the recruiters who are working on specific jobs or a specific application, for example. And as you can see, a recruiter by recruiter breakdown of how people are moving candidates through process. And it's not just recruiters. We can also break things down by hiring managers who, for better or worse, sometimes have really tough calendars to get candidates scheduled on. We can identify that very quickly within the process. Here are all of our hiring managers. Why is it taking us 12 days to schedule on-site interviews? Is this person on vacation? Do they need to do some calendar cleanliness? So on and so forth. Of course, if you want to report diversity information, location-specific information, you can very easily do that in the system. And if you're not a data junkie, we do also provide very advanced analytics in our dashboarding capability. So you can create custom dashboards or use the dashboards from our library, focusing on things like interview health or sourcing productivity or an executive overview, for example. Like I said, you can create your own. That's totally fine. And when we present you the information, again, you're going to be able to filter through to specific timeframes, specific objects. I only care about Vince's jobs, or I only care about the engineering department. Obviously, you can mix and match, do your stacking so that the data is as relevant as possible. Everything we present in dashboards is widget based, meaning you can just drag and drop things to where you would like. And if you want, you can click into any of these objects to see the raw data. We hired 438 people. Generate a list for me. I want to see all of those people. And of course, things like specific KPIs, diversity breakdowns, interview times, scorecard submissions. And then, of course, since you'd be using Gem to communicate to candidates, are we communicating effectively? How are my recruiters using Gem? How are they using the CRM, the ATS? Great. Well, I will pause here. I know I went through quite a bit of information. We wanted to leave a little bit of breathing room for questions, a little bit of breathing room for any sort of follow-ups. So Ani, I will pass the mic back to you and see if there's anything that we need to focus in on.
All right, awesome. Cool. Well, we got a lot of great questions. I tried to answer them in the chat as much as I could, but yeah, we got 7 or so minutes, so let's go rapid fire here. So I'll start with some of the questions we have. All right, so Sid asked about application review and CRM search. How does the search work if it's not integrated with an ATS? So that's a really good question, and I try to answer this in the chat. And Vince, you can come in and interrupt me, but essentially, if you're using Gem App Review and it's not with one of the ATSs that we integrate with, so not the native Gem ATS, Greenhouse, Workday, SuccessFactors, or iCIMS, then unfortunately you won't be able to use Gem App Review. And again, that's where like you're able to like pick and choose the products that work for you. So we wouldn't force you to buy that. On the CRM search side, that can still work. So if you're sourcing a candidate, say on LinkedIn, or you're using our AI sourcing product, and you bring those applicants in and you're like, all right, I like them, we'll add them to your CRM. And then you can also push them into your ATS. And so once those candidates are in your CRM, all the search functionality that Vince was showing you will still be able to work. Now, again, if we don't have like that bi-directional integration set up with your ATS, then you wouldn't be able to search for past ATS candidates, but any candidates that's in the CRM, which that come through Gem, those will be searchable. So sorry if that was a mouthful, but Sid, hopefully that answered your question. Cool. So let's see, let's go to the next question. So can we add appropriate interviewers in the interview plan? Vince, I'll let you take this one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So in the interview plan, you can select the appropriate interviewers. That's mapped over to Gem scheduling, which obviously lives inside of the platform. When we do have those interview plans built, we'll cross-reference the calendars of all of those interviewers. So just like we walked through in the demonstration, we will show you, okay, you've selected these 5 interviewers. This is the schedule, or these are the schedules that work best. If there are any discrepancies, like let's say, for example, you need this interview to be done in the next 2 weeks and one or many of your interviewers just simply don't have the time, we'll notify you of that. So you can either swap an interviewer in or an interviewer out, or reconfigure the plan. Maybe it has to be on, the 3rd week. So yes, the answer to the question is absolutely.
Yep. Awesome. And then the next question, where do interview templates live once they are created?
Templates live within the side navigation bar. So once you create a template, there's actually a template section. So basically all of your scorecards, your job descriptions, those will be easily accessible in the navigation bar directly within the ATS section. So it's not like an external place, it's all within the platform.
Awesome. Cool. And then also, can the candidates be integrated into Salesforce once they've reached the offer stage or the onboarding stage? I believe the answer to this one is unfortunately not today. We do not have an integration with the Salesforce ATS, but if you are in conversation with us and this is a high priority, it's something that our team can be flexible about. We're always kind of have like some bandwidth within our team to make sure that we can like build the right solution or work with your existing tech stack. So yeah, if you're really interested in this product in Gem and this is one of the big requirements, it's definitely something worthwhile to flag to the folks that you're speaking to at Gem. We've done it before. Cool. And then next question, how about from advertising ads? Whoops. So Vince, just for context, I believe what Misty was asking is how can we track candidates that come from recruiting like advertising ads?
Yeah. So we can develop XML feeds to all of the different resources that you use. So like if you use like LinkedIn job ads or Indeed job ads, when you post the position in Gem, you can create a specific tracking code for a source. So if somebody were to apply via Indeed, for example, that tracking link would then source code that individual in the ATS so that we can give credit where credit is due. And like I mentioned, you can develop XML feeds that will just automatically pick up the positions you post from the ATS, which is something you're probably doing today, but I figured I would mention it. But the long and short is we create links that are source coded for the resources you use so that we can report on them and, of course, give credit where credit is due.
Awesome. Cool. Great. Well, Colette just said great presentation, Vince. Very informative.
Oh, thanks.
And then Joshua said, Anil, I meant for AI sourcing. Fun fact, Anil is actually my dad's name. So that's kind of funny. But I believe Joshua's question was like, Vince, from all the different like public sources that we use, like, does our AI sourcing pull data, from these different major platforms? And, I can take a pass at this, but essentially the answer is yes. So the 650 million plus profiles that we have, they come from multiple public data sources. Basically all the major ones that you might be sourcing already. And then, the kind of like caveat, or not the caveat, sorry, the way I'd explain it is like, if you're having relatively decent results finding certain candidates on a LinkedIn or a GitHub, a Seekout or a Hire Easy, chances are you're going to find the good candidates with our AI sourcing product as well. Cool. I think we wrapped up all the questions with just 2 minutes left. Hold me honest, panel. Did I miss any questions? If not, I hope you all enjoyed this presentation. Vince and I love doing this stuff. And yeah, any feedback is appreciated, whether you want to put it in the chat or follow up with an email. Last thing I'll leave you all with is, if anything here that you see was, really helpful for you all and you want to get in touch with us about potentially seeing what Gem ATS looks like, there's 2 ways you can do it. You could go ahead and click the request personalized demo on the top, like rightish area, or you could go ahead and reach out and email sales@gem.com. Either process works if that's something you want. And then Rosa, I saw, how soon will we receive the recording? Generally, it's pretty automated, so I believe our team just needs to like clean up the edits here and just make sure everything runs smoothly. But given that our team is off on Friday, I think by Monday you should be able to see a recording and you'll get it in your email. So reach out to me on LinkedIn, connect with me and Vince. And if you don't get something that you need, you can always just DM us on LinkedIn right away.